Hi, Mary Beth from Dread Central. How are you?
Good. Nice to
Hi,
meet you.
good to
Nice to
meet
meet you
you.
too. I'm super stoked to chat with you about Chainsaw Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my first question's for both of you. It's pretty basic, but I'll start with Susie. What was your relationship to Chainsaw Man before you got the role?
I actually wasn't really cognizant of what Chainsaw Man was beforehand. I did see, reverberations of it, online. I've seen plenty of pictures and cosplays of Makima and Power, especially. So I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Like, who are these characters? They seem very popular. So when I got the audition, I was like, oh, this is what everyone's talking about. Like it's a really big deal. So it wasn't until I actually booked the role that I binged the entire manga basically. And yeah, so I'm all caught up now and I can understand the hype.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
then Sarah, what about you? Did you have any relationship at all to Chainsaw Man?
I had actually a very similar, if not almost exact
Yeah.
experience to Susie.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd seen them everywhere and also had not read the manga before doing the audition. I only read a few, like the first two volumes, just to get to know the two female characters.
Yeah.
And yeah, ate that up afterwards.
hmm
Hell yeah. And so
Mhm.
your character Makima and Power are incredible characters, and they're foils for each other. I feel like the way Aki
hmm
and Denji are in terms of measured and kind of intrusive thoughts personified. And that's how I think of Power and Denji a lot of the
That's
time.
hilarious.
Um,
I
Yes.
literally said that earlier too. I'm like, what?
again, but for both of you, but starting with Sarah, what was it like to get into the mind of Power, this chaos creature, and like kind of really occupy this space of a creature who just loves to be angry and fight and blood and everything like that?
It's incredibly fun. I have so much fun. I can let out all of the demons I have inside of me out in my performances with her. I like that very first laugh that she had. I'm like, oh, I've been needing that for a long time. Uh, and let's see here. God, you know what? Something about me is that I lose my train of thought like a lot.
That's fair, but like you talk about the laugh though with Power. Like, what was that like developing like the laugh and kind of the cadence that she has in the show?
Could you say that one more time?
Yeah. So, like, what was it like for you to develop kind of the like Power's laugh and the cadence that she has throughout the series?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I looked at the manga and I made sure that I got like the gahaha in there somewhere. It's like my favorite part about it is that like, oh, I knew it was gonna be a guttural kind of sound too. So I'm gonna have to like really like pull out the belly, laugh into
Mm.
it too, and like scream to the heavens. Like, look what
Hell
I have
yeah.
done.
Amazing. And then Susie, a similar question for you about Makima and kind of creating her character and her very
Mhm.
kind of mysterious, kind of scary vibe that I think you pull off really well.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I think it helped definitely reading the manga in its entirety and knowing what happens. Because
Hmm.
she comes off as like she knows a lot more than what the series is portraying. Like you kind of know that right away. Like you get a feeling that obviously there's something more to her, and the anime really hammers it in with all the close-up shots to her eye, and she, yeah, definitely comes off as very sweet and nice, but also intimidating. So it was interesting to pull off that balance. And I have Mike to thank for that, the director, for like pulling those sides out, like making sure that she's not completely robotic, but she's still like cold and warm at the same time. It's very
Yeah.
hard to
You're
describe,
hot, then you're cold.
Yeah. Yes, then you're no.
You do what you're told.
Oh yeah, you do what you're told for sure. Uh,
Amazing.
yeah.
And so, in this world of devils, if you were to exist in this terrifying world, what would the
Hmm.
devil that would be the most terrifying to you? And Susie, starting with you, what do you think that would be for you?
Well, I think, Sarah and I mentioned this a couple times already, but we'd be terrified of the cockroach devil. I think that is like one of the scariest and grossest things in existence. It can survive
I,
nuclear war. So
the
only
bigger
the
they get, the more
Oh my God.
scared and grotesque it becomes, and knowing how large it would be fills me with a lot of uncertain
And all
feelings.
their eggs that they can release. Like
And they'll be so hard to kill.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, I think it would be an extremely powerful devil that, everybody to some degree has some sort of deep-seated fear of. So yeah, any sort of gross bugs, yeah, and like
Reagan said the
that
same
just
thing.
gets me.
No bugs.
Oh,
Absolutely no
Reagan?
bugs.
Oh,
Yeah, Reagan was like, absolutely no bugs. And I was like,
that's
that's fair.
that's when
That's
you
fair.
know it's
Oh,
like extremely powerful. It's so prevalent.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, no
But
bugs.
oh god, a mosquito devil would be scary too. I hate
Yeah.
them.
They would suck
I
all
don't
your
want to
blood
think.
out.
Oh, I don't want to think about that.
Okay,
Oh
okay,
God.
okay.
All right, I'm gonna change the subject.
Yes.
But just again for both of you, but starting with Sarah, do you have a relationship with the horror genre in general? Because Chainsaw Man, I mean, is horror in so many different ways. But are you a horror fan at all?
I'd say I'm more into like psychological thrillers than I am horror because I
Okay.
actually ironically am squeamish of
Mm.
gory things.
All right.
So it is a little bit hard to watch Chainsaw Man at times. So I'm like,
Oh, really?
ah!
But is it easier with animated blood and gore rather than kind of more realistic seeming? I'm curious
I think
for
like
you.
a little bit, but
Okay.
I still like have an unfortunate habit of putting myself in somebody else's shoes, and so like I'm like, oh no! Like regardless of whether it's real or not, like in the moment
Fair.
it feels real. So
That's fair.
but yeah, I still like I watch a lot of horror and I regretted a lot of them too, like The Ring or uh Jeepers Creepers, for instance.
Yeah.
That's I was in my mom and dad's bed for like 6 months after The Ring.
Oh, the
was
Grudge
like,
got me. It was The Ring
ooh,
and the Grudge of
That
oh my
1-2 punch, I feel
god.
like that era of those movies was just
Oh.
like absolutely devastating to our generation, to our mental
God.
health.
Yeah.
And I had a friend who kept pushing me to watch them all too. Like she was super into horror, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I can watch a scary thing. And I was like, I can't watch a scary thing, but I also can't look away.
Mm-hmm.
I have like that morbid curiosity in my brain.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, I
Mm.
can watch it. And then I'm like, I'm not right after the movie for a while. I have to avoid like shadows and
Oh
going to the
yeah.
bathroom alone for a bit.
Yep.
Uh-huh. I
Um,
feel that.
Big same.
Yeah.
but yeah, I've
I
Yeah.
was like,
also done
Suzie,
a
what's
lot
your
of
relationship?
things with it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh no,
Oh,
that's all.
you like horror games? Is that what you were saying?
I've done a few things that are like
Mm.
horror related in shows, but also in a game. Like one of them was Pulong Insanity, which is a really creepy
Oh.
Indonesian game.
Okay, horror games are scarier than horror movies. I say this as someone who
Yes.
loves both. I
Oh
think
yeah.
horror games are
Oh
scarier
yeah.
because you're in it.
I
You can't well,
agree.
you can pause, but you can't move forward, and you're
It's
like,
like,
well, I can't keep
I
playing
don't
the
wanna.
game.
Yes. It's exactly.
Exactly.
I
It's like,
tried doing it for Resident Evil. It was not good. I had to get my please, please take the controller. I can't think. I'm gonna cry. I am stressed.
oh my
But
God.
Susie, you seem like you're having a similar reaction. But like, is that your relationship to the horror genre too, of like morbid curiosity, but it's not your favorite?
Mm. Pretty much. Like I am super into the lore. Like I will read up on all the Wikipedia like about all the ghosts and like what happened here. It's like, oh my God, I will not play the game, but I'll read the entire synopsis. And
Yeah.
I will watch someone play while hiding behind them
Same.
or
I
if
have
I
watched
watch
someone
a
else do it.
movie, if I watch a movie, I'll do this. Like I'll plug my ears and do this because
Oh, I like that double action. Yeah, that's
yes,
incredible.
because it's the sound that gets you. It's the
Yes.
sound in
Yeah.
horror that is really terrifying, actually.
Yes.
So
That
like I'll
shing
just like
sound. Mm-mm.
yeah, yeah, and so like and someone will have to be next to me and like I'll cut off their blood circulation. So I cannot really handle horror, but oddly, like for anime like gore and stuff, I've become a little bit desensitized to it since
Okay.
I actually played the lead role in High Rise Invasion, which is a super, super gory show. So I was like, oh, okay, after that, I guess. But live action gore is like, no, can't.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious with the roles that you've played in Chainsaw Man, and I want to start with Suzie with this. Were there any unique challenges that you were confronted with in playing this role versus any other voice acting roles you've had before?
Yeah, I definitely think this anime has like 70% much more care put into it. Like it's very detail oriented. So
Yeah.
like we'd really have to massage the performance. So like you can't like just go like flat with Makima. Like it's very easy to lose her in this sort of robotic sense.
Yeah.
So like trying to put in a little bit of spice, like a little bit of sensuality, but not too much that it's like too sexual. But also like a little bit of fear. Like it's just like a little bit of dashes. Like it's like putting it into a little recipe
Sugar,
where
spice,
yeah,
and
sugar spice
everything
and
nice.
everything not nice.
And everything terrifying and
Yeah, and
was
just
it
like
man-made
sort of
horrors beyond your comprehension.
right. Yeah, and it's like not even mixing it, but just very gently stirring it. It's a very like light-handed touch. And that's what I, try to invoke in Makima is that that's a very soft approach. But it's also like it cuts through, in a sense. Like you get her intention, but she's doing it softly and making sure that you understand what
Yeah.
she's all about. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Didn't mean to scare you. Sorry.
she's here. And then Sarah, what about you with power?
I read a lot of the manga and got to know her more and found out, like she's very selfish. She's a pathological liar. And I try to say that very fast. Yeah, so everything that she does is just really just for her own fun. But it's interesting to see that she's become accustomed to having a friend, which is Meowie, and which is something that she wasn't really used to before. Because like, there's a scene where she's like, you know, it's really, really strange to hear something that's not screaming at me the moment it sees me. Very strange. And so she's isn't like, it's the best thing about the writing is that like all these characters, they're not just like what do you call it again? I forget. Like
one dimensional.
One note.
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
one-dimensional characters.
Yeah.
Like there's like so much to each of the characters and there's so much to chew on with them. I tend to like really be in a good space for her, but then there's sometimes I might go like a little bit too energized or overboard. Like I get very excitable when I'm in there. And she's like doing a scene where she's like talking and like going like this, and then Mike's like, hey Gremlin, can you go down a few steps for me? Just a few notches. Or a little bit too hot compared to the Japanese. Let's tone it down a bit. I'm like, sorry.
It's just fun to get to play a chaotic fiend. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you both so much for taking the time to chat with me about Chainsaw Man and your incredible characters.
Of course. Yeah, it was super fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.